Welcome to the Strategy Report for Little Brothers Friends of the Elderly's Longfellow Initiative. Our team is Ellen Lucas, Mary Mom, and Nok Trin from Prime Digital Academy. Little Brothers tasked us with doubling the elders enrolled in their programming within the next fiscal year, which is to say, the next 11 months. Doubling the enrollees means getting about 105 new elders into the program. A broader goal is to make the Longfellow neighborhood into an isolation-free zone where no elders are lonely and isolated. 90% of elders are referred by their caregivers or other members of the community. The main obstacle to enrollment, then, is the simple fact that isolated elders tend not to have the social contacts who can refer them to little brothers. So the question we're trying to answer is, how can we contact isolated elders, a group of people whose key characteristic is they don't have many connections? We hypothesize that the best way to reach these elders is by using the encounters and contacts that they already have, which we see as belonging to two main groups: neighbors, who might know something about the people in houses near them, and local business workers, who might encounter elders and their caregivers going about normal routines. Isolated elders are the beneficiaries of the campaign, but 90% of elders joined Little Brothers from referrals, so potential referrers, members of the Longfellow community who are not necessarily elders themselves, are the main target of the campaign. So how can we access this community knowledge to find isolated elders? Our approach comes in two parts. The first is to mail a flyer to every household in Longfellow. The flyer will include information about isolation among elders and point to an online form that neighbors might use to notify Little Brothers of elders in their neighborhoods who might benefit from an informational phone call. In addition, we'd be sure that flyers are posted in public places. The second is to send volunteers from Little Brothers to speak with local business workers, asking them to act as community information hubs about isolation, mention Little Brothers' Longfellow initiative, point potentially lonely elders they might meet toward Little Brothers resources, and to distribute Little Brothers brochures at their place of business. So why would Longfellow get together to help end isolation and loneliness among its elders? We anticipate two main reasons. For one thing, many people have a general desire to make the world a better place, and this initiative gives them a concrete way to do this. For another, the idea that this is a Longfellow-based campaign will help foster a sense of neighborliness and community spirit. Our two-prong approach is designed to facilitate saturation of Little Brothers' presence in Longfellow, leading to greater overall awareness and ideally motivating people to get involved. Our recommendation form is designed to let knowledgeable neighbors help potentially lonely elders with minimal commitment, but we know that we're working in a sensitive space. Isolation and loneliness carry stigma for many people, and we don't want to make anyone feel pitied or singled out for attention based on assumptions about their needs and interests. Let's look at an overview of our strategy. The first part of the strategy is to spread awareness throughout the Longfellow neighborhood through ad saturation. Awareness materials, such as ads and flyers, are made visible in the community, where isolated elders may come into contact with them when they venture outside their homes. This may include places like telephone poles, bulletin board posting areas, and metro mobility buses. Each resident would be sent a postcard with Little Brothers information. This is to act as a canvassing effort to make it more likely that all residents are informed. The goal here is for an elder to see these awareness materials and get in contact with Little Brothers. The messaging on these ad materials is important. Possible feelings of being pitied and targeted can exist in this sensitive space. Currently, Little Brothers does a good job by framing their services as opportunities for friendship and social connections with their elders. The other prong of our strategy is to ask local businesses to act as community information hubs about the problem of isolation and loneliness among elders. A business could include food delivery services, lawn care work, faith organizations, or hotline operations. Here's a scene where a Little Brothers member talks to a local pharmacist.
Hi, I'm Nancy, a volunteer from Little Brothers Friends of the Elderly. Our mission is to help relieve isolation and loneliness among the elderly, mainly by pairing elders with volunteers who'd like to become friends. Currently, we're doing a campaign to make Longfellow an isolation-free zone when we're having trouble reaching out to isolated elders. Typically, isolated elders don't have a lot of contact with the outside world besides the businesses they frequent.
That sounds like a very meaningful campaign. Tell me more about what I can do to help.
It's important here for the Little Brothers volunteer to emphasize the importance of the pharmacist in the effort to spread awareness to increase the likelihood of buy-in. Here, the pharmacist talks to Mrs. Lee, a possible isolated elder.
Hey, Mrs. Lee, here's your prescription. And by the way, here's a brochure from Little Brothers for the Elderly. They're working on ending loneliness among the elderly through social connections. If you know anyone who may benefit from their services, check them out.
Thank you. I will check it out and reach out to anyone I know.
If the pharmacist becomes busy, he can also just slip a brochure into Mrs. Lee's bag. This exact conversation can happen with any community member, including neighbors of isolated elders. 2 weeks later, Mrs. Lee has an epiphany.
I could use a friend right now. I have been very lonely since my husband passed away.
Mrs. Lee decides to give Little Brothers a call.
Hello, Little Brothers. How can I help you?
Hello, I am interested in learning more about your programs.
Mike talked to the pharmacist too. He's a neighbor of Mrs. Lee. After receiving the brochure, he thinks to himself,
I really think Mrs. Lee can benefit from Little Brother's services. I never see her leave her house.
Mike goes to the Little Brothers website and fills in a recommendation form.
If Mrs. Lee is lonely, I hope Little Brothers can connect with her.
It could be uncomfortable for Mike to talk to Mrs. Lee in person. The recommendation form places that responsibility on Little Brothers. The form is online to give people quick and easy access. The goal of both scenarios is to get Mrs. Lee connected with Little Brothers so that she can take part in social events and be matched with a volunteer to form a meaningful connection. To recap our design plan, our goal is to find isolated elders and give them the chance to enroll in Little Brothers programming. To do this, we plan to leverage existing community knowledge of and points of contact with these elders. Our plan is two-pronged. We'll cover Longfellow with mailings and posted flyers, and ask local businesses to act as information and awareness hubs for the neighborhood. We can't really predict the Longfellow campaign's future impact, but we hope it'll raise awareness about isolation and loneliness and Little Brothers' mission, resulting in more referrals and recommendations of lonely elders. If this campaign is effective, it could be scaled or used again in other communities. We hope that businesses also might continue to display our signs and spread awareness. This campaign might also change the way that Little Brothers uses volunteers. From Ellen,
Mary?
Knock.
Thank you.